Hello and welcome everyone to GridVision. We sure are excited to be here this lovely Sunday afternoon as we're going to be going, I do believe, Global Racing Truck Series racing. And as always, we're going to have an exciting show. We always do, as we're now at the Twisties of Watkins Glen. Of course, my name is Brian Britt. I have Austin Edstrom as my
What in the world is that?
I'm
That
sorry.
name is wrong.
Brandon Edstrom. That's actually Austin Edstrom. That is wrong. And you can tell Austin definitely very much voicing his displeasure. Of course, Austin Derbyshire. Shame on you, but great job on the
C-tier producer.
Can't you believe he did that? I thought I made a mistake.
There it is. Oh, I love him now. A-tier.
quick on his toes to fix that for sure. And so, of course, these guys are in the midst of qualifying. We had 10 minutes of qualifying. We still have a little bit over under 4 minutes left here at Watkins Glen. It's going to be a long one. 61 laps of action here at this racetrack, and very, very hot track temp right now. I do believe 119 degrees trackside.
Yeah, this is the hottest track temp I've seen this week at the old Glen, and I love this racetrack. We've got a long race for you guys here tonight. 61 laps of of crazy trucking around this crazy racetrack. I can't wait to see. These things are so difficult to drive this week. I mean, the A car, it's just got so much grip going through the S's, but you get into the truck, and man, you just cannot get the throttle down.
100%. Taking a look at the point standings right now. Stephen Hayes at the top of the board, I do believe about 32 points on Chad McGinley. McGinley, of course, in second. Dale Brooks, third place. Ricky Hudgens is in fourth. Michael Hayes, fifth. Bobby Mantle, I was about to say Robbie. Seventh place, Steve Gerber. Eighth place, EJ Luna. Ninth place, Jeff Weimer. And 10th, Mark Royce. And as they look in the top 10 of the points right now. And, of course, it is definitely going to be considering fluctuating. We've seen some guys that are pretty fast. We know Bobby Mantle is very fast at these road courses, and Austin McGill not here, so this could be a pretty good opportunity. I know McGill very fast this week. I've actually talked to him a little bit earlier, but let's take a look at the schedule for the coming week. And, of course, that'll be starting with Tuesday's Champion Power Equipment Truck Series, and they will be concluding their championship season, of course, at Phoenix Raceway, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, the following day will be Pocono Raceway there in the Thunderclamp iRacing Series presented by TLC. That'll be 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we're going to the Tricky Triangle in the next gen, I do believe. Friday, of course, NIS competition resumes at Daytona, and that is going to be some super speedway action there. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and Austin Edstrom's going to be on the call for that one, so definitely looking forward to seeing pretty much roll the dice who's going to win that one. And a lot of guys are going to be really trying to get onto, I guess, the marquee or get their name on the wall for winning that race. Of course, next Sunday, it's actually a little bit of a mistake there on the schedule. It's actually Milwaukee we're going to be going to. I just realized that just a little bit ago in the Global Racing Truck Series. Of course, trucks are actually going to be going to Milwaukee in real life, and the Global Racing Truck Series are going to be going there as well, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, we've got about a minute 20 seconds left here in qualifying at the moment. Talking about Bobby Mantle, Austin. He's up on the pole right now. I have really big hopes for that 89 right here today.
Yeah, our last road course race, we saw him come in P2 behind somebody that's not here today, Austin McGill. So Bobby McGill is definitely my favorite here tonight. Someone else that we really need to keep an eye on is Stephen Hayes in third place. He kind of took himself out of contention early in the Mid-Ohio race, but he ended up running all the way through the field from the back of the pack and ended up finishing still on the podium after that long race. So I think Stephen Hayes is kind of a shout here. I think he's going to give Bobby Mantle a run for his money, and Chad McGinley's placed right in between them in second place. All three of those drivers, I think, are going to be giving each other a good fight for the lead here for the entirety of this event. Even though it's 61 laps, plenty of time for them to get spread out, but the skill range in this series, especially towards the top, is really tight, and I think that the timing charts are going to end up showing that towards the end of this race as well.
No, yeah, I do also want to mention that this race is sponsored by, of course, I do believe we had Mark Royce sponsor this race, and has actually put up a fundraiser, ladies and gentlemen. If you look into our description, there is a fundraiser to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital that Mr. Royce has put on, and they have already met the goal. The goal was, I do believe, $500. They already exceeded it up to $700. But why not push it even further, ladies and gentlemen? Let's go ahead and give them some more money if you can. So definitely appreciate him putting that on, and he donated $50 himself to kind of start it off. But definitely love to see that, of course, as I do believe we have the grid set here for today's action. Of course, Bobby Mantle starting on the pole. Chad McGinley going to be starting on the outside pole. Stephen Hayes starts in third. Fourth place, Justin LeBlanc. Fifth place, Daniel Watt. Sixth place, Dale Brooks. Seventh, Mark Royce, the man himself. Eighth place, DJ Honeycutt. Ninth, EJ Luna. And 10th, David Holsey.
11th is going to be Josh Camphor. 12th, Ron Harrington. 13th is Stephen Knight. 14th, Kenny Heath. 15th, Ron Holmes. 16th, Ricky Hudgens II. 17th, Mike Hayes. And 18th, Joshua Slade.
So 18 cars going to be starting here at this racetrack, and very difficult racetrack. And like you said, I'd say a pretty big discrepancy, I think, between the skill levels here. And I think because of how long this race is, we're going to end up seeing lap traffic come into play, I'd say, very sooner than we probably think. As, of course, do want to mention some of the details about the race as well. 28 laps, from what I've been told, is the fuel window here. And that means that these guys won't be able to make it on just one stop unless you try to really save. So that could be, we could see two different strategies here. Some guys try to save the gas, but I think at a road course it's very difficult to save a couple laps, considering it's a lot bigger than an oval. It's a lot easier to save a couple laps at an oval than it is at a Watkins Glen. So could see two stops, could see one from some guys. Of course, 3 sets of tires down in the pits, I think the tires are going to be important too. With how hot it is, Austin, I think that's going to be a big factor. I mean, a lot of the guys were talking about the rear tires are going to be failing, or not failing, but really getting very worn on them. I mean, I know the next gen, you have a lot of experience at this racetrack. In the next gen, tires don't seem to have that much of an impact there, but this truck seems to be completely different.
Yeah, and what really will hamper a lot of these guys too is kind of that front turn-in ability towards the end of these runs. If you really kill your tires early in the run, your front turn-in in turns like turn 1 through the carousel, you can really lose a lot of time if you scrub them off just a little bit too hard too early. So I think on that first pit stop, everybody's going to run it as long as they can, to that 27, 28, 29 lap limit on the gas, and then take 4 freshies. And then once they kind of have their last pit stop towards the end of the race, it's probably just going to be a splash of gas at that point. So I think that's kind of what we need to look out for here towards the end of this race. I don't think it's going to be too crazy on the strategy decisions. I really think it's just a little out of range for these guys to really be able to save that amount of fuel. I mean, they definitely can, but I just feel like they'd probably be giving up too much time to be able to save 2 laps of fuel over both runs.
No, I think you're right. I definitely think you're right. And it's going to be, if tires are going to be significant as well, it might as well go ahead and go down, grab a fresh set, take 2 stops here. Or maybe some strategy could be even played around with that, not taking tires on a stop. We'll have to see how that works. If some guys maybe try to save their tire a little bit there. We'll see. We'll definitely have to see how this plays out as the pace car lights are out. Of course, we're filing down into the bus stop here at Watkins Glen. Bobby Mantle getting ready to get us up through the gears, and green flag should be out here any moment. And I expect it's going to be quite a hairy turn 1 here at Watkins Glen.
I think I'd be more worried about the S's. I just think these trucks, I mean, even whenever the tires are warm, it's just so loose going over the S's, and they're all going to be on cold tires coming through turn 1 and into turn number 2, and they're all stacked up on top of each other. So I really feel like the S's are going to be the trouble spot here today, and I'd be really interested to see if these guys can get through clean on lap 1.
Yeah, that definitely be and that'd be curious to see. And do we have a block track that causes maybe a yellow flag to come out? I mean, that could very well be a possibility. I mean, usually there are no full course yellows in racing such as this, but it could very well easily happen. I mean, just considering if the S's are such a treacherous place, if the track gets blocked through there, it's almost like you're required to have a caution, as the pace car is going to be dipping down pit road. Bobby Mantle going to be up through the gears as he gets to call for the green flag. McGinley almost goes before Bobby Mantle does, but fortunately I think he caught himself there. Unfortunately, though, that is going to line up Stephen Hayes on the inside for that second place position, but Mantle definitely taking care of business going into turn 1.
Yeah, good move there from Stephen Hayes, just kind of taking advantage of Chad McGinley after he got a little over-eager on the start. But they're all single file going through the S's right now. No harm, no foul so far, but this is kind of the trouble spot. I see a lot of people getting loose. That's Justin LeBlanc just a little bit further back. He got a little bit twitchy in front of DJ Honeycutt coming off of the S's, and they go side by side just about. Oh, he's not going to actually peek out going into the bus stop. Oh, somebody further back does. Can't quite tell who that is in that Busch Light machine back there. 78 truck. I think that's only the second paint scheme, or second week I've seen that paint scheme, so I don't have that memorized just yet. Oh well.
That is Josh Camper, yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But yeah, they've all come out through the S's, through the carousel, all clean. Kind of surprising. I really thought we were going to see some accidents through the S's, but Stephen Hayes is actually right on the leader's back bumper here going into turn 6.
Yeah, he is. Definitely is. Stephen Hayes, very good start here on lap 1 as we get ready to come out of the final turn, turn 8, onto the front stretch here to finish lap number 1. And Bobby Mantle definitely under some pressure here. But I think Mantle, if I was him, I would just kind of hang out. I don't know. It looks like, hey, maybe it ain't no time to hang out as Hayes tries to get underneath. Mantle goes wide to try to see if he can't get the momentum. He goes a little bit wide on the exit of the corner. Now side by side for the lead, and I think Stephen Hayes has the preferred groove, and he does take the lead. Wow.
That was a really good move from Stephen Hayes. Yeah, he just kind of dipped his nose out, just got side by side, just got bumper to bumper coming into turn number 1. Made Bobby Mantle maybe release the brake pedal just a little bit earlier than he had originally planned to, and he actually had to go wide, scrub off a little bit more speed, and it allowed Stephen Hayes to get the better exit off of the corner, and he is through to the lead going through the bus stop and into the carousel right now.
Yeah, but keep in mind, tire wear is a thing here, so I'm wondering if maybe Hayes is pushing it too far. I mean, we'll have to see how that kind of works out. Also, he's going to be now in cleaner air. That could negatively impact him. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, we do see a battle for third place starting to develop. Daniel Ott and Chad McGinley, the 28 and the 62, starting to go a little bit side-by-side racing here there for a moment. Also, Justin LeBlanc, we talked about him getting a little bit loose earlier. Looks like he's got that car, or that truck better now, as he's actually going to go to the inside of Ott.
Yeah, good move there from LeBlanc coming up the final corner. Got a good run down to the inside. He's got the preferred groove going down into turn 1. Breaks a little bit later than Ott. Hits the apex nice. Man, he clobbered that inside curve. Just about covers off the cut back move. He gets a little squirrely on exit. They make a little bit of contact onto the bumper. That's Daniel Ott pressing him into the S's. That's actually going to give DJ Honeycutt. Oh, man, Justin LeBlanc gets loose going into the corner. He's going to give up 2, maybe 3 positions going through the S's.
Yeah, man, he was getting bump drafted essentially there out of the corner. I don't think Ott appreciated him, but I don't think I saw anything wrong with really what LeBlanc was doing. I think he was racing him clean. He was trying to make a pass, and very clean driving there. Unfortunately, he just lost all the spots that he gained and more. Now back to 7th place. Mark Royce was able to get by. Mark Royce all over the back end right now of DJ Honeycutt for that 5th place position. But the racing has been quite exciting here, as we see in a lot of fast drivers. DJ Honeycutt, very quick. Mark Royce, very fast. Justin LeBlanc, very fast. I mean, kind of interesting to see that. It's also further back in the field. I'm looking at Michael Hayes as being a really fast driver right now. I think he's going to start to work through the field as well.
Yeah, he started towards the back of the pack. I don't believe he laid down a qualifying lap. I would not be surprised if he could kind of come through. But we've actually got Mark Royce looking to the inside of DJ Honeycutt coming off the final corner. He doesn't just quite get there. But it looks like we're just going to be single file going into turn 1. Going back to last lap, though, Justin LeBlanc got a huge hit to the inside curve whenever he was trying to make that move. I want to say it just unsettled his truck a good bit more than he expected coming off of the corner. Maybe he got on the throttle just a little bit early, and it just really allowed, who was it that was right behind him? I think it was Daniel Ott. It just really allowed Daniel to get right back to his back bumper immediately coming off of that corner. As we've got an accident coming off of the last corner, that's the 3 truck of Ron Holmes. I guess he's got a number change. But he's going to have to actually take an early pit stop. This is definitely way too early and off strategy as we have a replay coming up.
Yeah, I do believe we're going to see what happened here with Ron Holmes. So he was very, definitely seems like he was very much off the pace here. Oh yeah, just missed turn 8 completely and smashed the wall. This is a track. I mean, not to harp or pick on anybody, but this is a track that you have to practice. I mean, even though it is one of the I'd say that the tracks, when you think of NASCAR racing at road courses, you think Watkins Glen. But that does not discount the fact that you have to practice. You see Michael Hayes going around there in the bus stop. That's a big deal right there.
Yeah, that's a ton of time that he's just going to lose right off the bat of this race. You really don't want to see that happen early in the run, especially whenever his brother, who he's typically side by side with, just as quick at every racetrack, he just seems to not quite have the road courses figured out just as well as his brother does. His brother has stretched out a 3.5 second gap already in 5 laps.
Yeah, Stephen Hayes is looking really, really quick, and I'm surprised that we're not seeing faster laps than we are. I know in the C Open, I've seen guys hit minute 12. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder if the heat has something to do with that, but definitely Stephen Hayes seems to have the best pace right now. We'll have to see if that continues. If he starts to heat those tires up, it's so easy to make a mistake. You talked about it before. What are some of the symptoms that these guys are going to start to feel when the tires do start to warm up too much and wear too much?
Yeah, I already alluded to the front turn in, and through the long, slow corner of the carousel, if you get your front tires overheated, you start wearing out those front tires too much, you just don't have that turning ability through the entirety of that long, slow corner, and you just cannot get off of the corner as straight as other guys, so you just can't get your foot to the pedal as soon as everybody else. Another kind of symptom with that is you're tugging the wheel so hard, so you've got so much wheel into it, and then you try to start putting the pedal down, and the back end will just start coming around on you. And especially in these trucks where they just have less downforce towards the back of the car than the Cup cars, they have slimmer rear tires than the Cup cars. It just makes it a whole lot more difficult to get the throttle down. So I think we're going to see a lot of that towards the end of these runs. Once we get to the 20, 25 lap portion of the runs, as we see the 62 truck get pretty loose there, going through the S's behind Bobby Mantle. That's Daniel Ott, who's actually moved up from the 5th position to the 3rd and putting pressure on our 2nd place driver right now.
Yeah, Ott definitely looking incredibly fast right now. This is one of the best races we've seen from him, I'd say, all season. I think he's put a lot of preparation in here tonight. You could definitely tell, or today, you could definitely tell. I mean, just the way he's driving that truck, very confident looking. Another driver just really moving through the field as well, Mark Royce, of course, definitely making some good moves as well. He's up to 4th. We see Daniel Ott right now trying to peek to the inside. You see Mantle not exactly giving him the most room. He's not really wanting to let him go, but it looks like he has no choice. Ott just is just that much faster. That's 62. Now up to 2nd place. Now, does he have the speed to possibly try to run down Stephen Hayes?
That was a really impressive move to do that on the outside of the penultimate corner of this lap. I mean, goodness gracious, that is a tough corner to make a pass on the outside. You really got to use all the racetrack on the inside. As we see, Joshua Slade has gone into the inside wall towards the last corner of the racetrack. Ricky Hudgens looked to be a little bit off the pace as well. Oh man, Joshua Slade and Ricky Hudgens, that's a little heartbreaking to have that this early. It looks like Joshua is going to come into the pit road and try to get that damage assessed.
Yeah, we'll take a seat, look and see exactly what happened here with the 12 machine. Looks like he just hit one of these curves and it just unsettled the truck. Luckily, you see Stephen Knight there was able to get by. Ricky Hudgens, no wonder he was a little bit slow. He had to do evasive maneuvers to avoid hitting the 12 there. So fortunately, of course, I think Ricky Hudgens, no harm, no foul, is going to keep going. Of course, I do want to mention though, a couple drivers I'm surprised we're not seeing towards the front is drivers like Dale Brooks. He's back there in 15th. I'm telling you, I'm really shocked to see that some of these drivers that that are usually towards the front, that something is happening here later in this season that is really hurting those Dirty South drivers. We're just not seeing them be as successful as we used to see them, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because you see in seasons past, those were the guys to beat.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of heartbreaking to see some of those guys struggle, but I mean, we've seen them have some speed. We saw Dale Brooks be pretty fast last week. He just made a couple mistakes at the short track of IRP, but whenever you come to the road course, it's just a whole different animal. You're going to see some different guys up front. I know we've got Stephen Hayes in the lead right now, and that's not really a different guy up front, but we don't normally see Daniel Ott running 2nd. We don't normally see Mark Royce running 4th unless it's on a short run. As we see, I believe that's Stephen Knight on the inside barrier exiting turn number 1. Oh man, tough for Stephen Knight. We've seen a good couple of issues here early. I thought he escaped there for a second, but we just had a little bit of freeze frame there. But it looks like he's going to keep it righted straight. Only lose, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds. But I mean, that's a ton of time here at a road course, and you're never going to get a caution to get any of that back. So it sucks to see him have that issue early. But I'm really keeping my eye on Mark Royce coming out of the carousel. He's hounding Bobby Mantle. Got a little bit loose that time coming out, so he's going to give a little bit of that time back. But man, Mark Royce, Daniel Ott, they're really surprising me here today.
Yeah, looking really fast. Of course, Daniel Ott last time by was faster than our leader, Stephen Hayes, so it still is possible. I think he can go up there and maybe challenge for the lead. Stephen Hayes has been known to make mistakes at some point, so we'll see if that's going to be the case. Of course, long race, and when you have a race like this, focus is pretty much going to be the main resource I think you're going to run out of. I mean, tires and gas, yeah, that's something you're going to definitely have to think about. That's something you're definitely going to have to worry about. But I think the biggest thing is going to be staying alert and making sure you don't make mistakes, because this is a track that is so fast. And if you make one mistake, you got a metal barrier waiting on you.
Yeah, you're not kidding about that. But what we can see, I mean, Stephen Hayes is not really gapping Daniel Ott too much more, right? Like whenever Daniel was trying to get through the field, he was losing a good bit of time, and he's lost a couple tenths this lap, but he's keeping it a whole lot closer than the previous second place driver of Bobby Mantle was. I'm kind of surprised that Stephen Hayes has just been able to absolutely gap the field here early on. I thought Bobby Mantle and Chad McGinley were going to be on his heels, really early. I mean, they were both starting ahead of him, so I thought that they had a really good truck here tonight, but they're just kind of struggling in this early run. And I would like to point out, every time I eat Whataburger the night before one of these races, Stephen Hayes is typically the fastest on the racetrack. It happened at Pocono where he won. Last week at IRP, he was one of the quickest guys. He just got in some issues towards the end of the race. Like he was fast early, but then kind of fell off. And I ate Whataburger last night, so I would not be surprised to see Stephen Hayes in victory lane.
I was say I don't think you ate Whataburger last week, did you?
I believe I did. Well, was it?
I don't know. I think you
maybe
remember. I remember in the
that.
broadcast you said you didn't eat Whataburger.
Okay, maybe it was the week before that, because it's happened 3 times. It's happened 3 times, and he was stupid quick every time. So maybe it wasn't last week.
He's gonna. You're gonna start having to get paid.
Oh, it was Michigan.
Stephen Hayes. He's gonna have to start paying for your food at Whataburger. Well, hey man, you gotta go eat there. If you don't eat there, I'm not gonna win. I mean, y'all gotta start. Y'all gotta work out a deal or something.
It was Michigan, not last week. It was Michigan where I ate it, and he was far and away the fastest guy, but there was a late race caution that kind of screwed him out of the win. So I'm gonna say I'm a really good luck charm for Stephen Hayes. Every Saturday night, I'm going to eat Whataburger just to kind of see what happens the next day. I think that I'm just a good luck charm.
You're supposed to be unbiased.
Well, I just like to see
out by eating Whataburger.
I'm trying to see if I should be superstitious or not, right? Like if Whataburger, if me buying Whataburger makes Stephen Hayes fast, then I need to figure out where Stephen Hayes eats and put that on my car.
That's right. Yeah. Maybe it could be a transactional thing. That'd be nice. And then he eats wherever, wherever he likes to eat or something like that. Or you need to put that on your race car. He'll go to Applebee's the day before you go to a race.
Well, I hope he's not spending too much time in an Applebee's, but we'll see.
Maybe we'll open a GridVision restaurant or something.
That would be pretty interesting. I wouldn't mind that.
I wonder what we'll have Austin Derbyshire. He does so great with the camera work. He's got to be making good food, right?
I don't know if there's any correlation with that, but we'll go with it. Oh man. But no, I definitely need to get in touch with Stephen Hayes. I mean, obviously he likes eating Whataburger a lot, or else he wouldn't have it in his car. But we got to pick something else, right? I can't be running around with the Stephen Hayes tribute truck.
100%. Of course, looking at the gap now is starting to decrease though from Daniel Watts and Stephen Hayes. It's now under 5 seconds. So Ott is showing a little bit more pace than Hayes right now. Last time by was a little over 2 seconds, or 2/10, I should say, faster than Hayes. So I would not be surprised to see this gap continuing to dwindle. Maybe Hayes burned his tires up trying to take that lead early like he did. We'll have to wait and see. But there are battles brewing here. You see, I do believe Chad McGinley. He's been struggling. I'm seeing McGinley. His pace is not what it was at the beginning of the race or during qualifying. I mean, minute 15.803 right now. He's holding up the guys that are behind him.
Yeah, we've just kind of seen that gaggle of cars stay nose to tail here pretty long with nobody really being able to make a pass. But it looks like Chad McGinley's going to get a little wide there on the exit. Thought that maybe DJ Honeycutt was going to have an opportunity to go by him, but this is one of the hardest, I believe, in any way, one of the hardest road courses to pass. There's just not too many heavy braking zones that you can really dive under somebody. Turn 1 obviously comes to mind, but whenever you look at the bus stop, you really need to be really alongside somebody to be able to go for that move. As we see DJ Honeycutt try to prove me wrong going into the bus stop, he gets just a little loose going in. Man, he really narrowed up that corner. They're still side by side through the center of the bus stop. That's so difficult to do, and he actually makes the move stick right whenever I said you should not do that through the bus stop. He makes it stick. It was a little dangerous, and that's actually going to shuffle Chad McGinley back 3 positions. I really think we're going to see these 3 drivers start to pull away from him a little bit because it looked like he was holding them up for lap after lap.
Yeah, he definitely was holding them up. I mean, you see last time by a minute 16.4. I mean, that was, I do believe, one of the slower laps in the top 10 here. David Holsey as well is able to make it by there. He's following in the tire tracks to EJ Luna. So I think this battle 6th, 7th, and 8th, this is going to be some exciting fighting here. You see Luna, I do believe, just tagging the wall just a hair there. But definitely, I think we're going to still continue to see this battle progress. Of course, also we see Justin LeBlanc. He's not far back from Mark Royce. We're starting to see Mark Royce. We saw how fast he was on the shorter run. He's starting to slow down a little bit now.
Yeah, we normally see it on the ovals with Mark Royce. He's typically really quick for about 10 laps or so, and then he just starts falling off. I thought that maybe with it being a road course, it would last a little bit longer because the tires don't mean quite as much until the very end of the run, but it does look like he's starting to fall off of Bobby Mantle just a little bit, but it's really not that bad, and he's still holding on to that 4th position, and he just had a really good bus stop to kind of bring that gap back within, as David Holsey makes a great move onto the bus stop, making a pass on DJ Honeycutt. DJ Honeycutt finally got past Chad McGinley and then immediately loses 2 positions. In the next lap, and DJ Honeycutt sideways going into the carousel. He's able to hold on to it, but that's going to bring Chad McGinley back to his rear bumper.
Yeah, wow. I think everybody was waiting on DJ Honeycutt to open the door so they can get by McGinley, and then they were like, okay, well, now we'll get by you. And it seems like it worked out that way. We'll see if David Holmes can catch up to EJ Luna. Last time by, EJ Luna ran a minute 17. That's very slow lap. So I think Luna is possibly going to get challenged here in a moment by Holsey as well. And we could see Holsey move up to that 6th place position. Of course, I'm interested to see that we're seeing a lot of different paces starting to develop here. I think Mark Royce, he might not be having an issue with his tires. I think it might be an issue with consistency. Now, that's one thing we haven't really talked about, at a track like Watkins Glen. Road course racing, consistency is everything at a track like this. You really have to make sure you nail the stops every time, or nail the corners and exits every time. We're coming on these fast straightaways and S's that are really, a long distance. And if you come off the exit of a certain turn and you ruin that straightaway, that's gonna hurt your lap time considerably.
Yeah, we're seeing some of that inconsistency. You just saw him just get into the grass there on the carousel. He lost a little bit of time through the S's on Justin LeBlanc, and that allowed LeBlanc to get a great run down the backstretch into the bus stop, make a nice diving move into the inner loop, and he's actually pulling away from Mark Royce now that he's gotten by him. I mean, Justin LeBlanc really showing his muscle here early, moving up into the 4th position. We'll see if he can now run down Bobby Mantle for P3.
Yeah, just a little bit of an update as well. We've seen the 15 on back have gone a lap down. Of course, Ron Harrington, Joshua Slade, Ronald Holmes, I do believe, pretty much out of contention here for the win here. Stephen Hayes, though, in the lead. He's now getting his gap back up again. 6 seconds now on Daniel Ott right now. So he is pretty much in another zip code. You definitely got to be loving that. Now, of course, we're coming up on the point where if you were going to try to split this race into thirds, I think you would pit in the next maybe 5 or 6 laps.
Yeah, I just don't think that that's necessarily the way to go, though. I think you really want to run the fuel tank all the way dry and just kind of, if you run it all the way dry on the first time, you fill it all the way up and take the 4 tires so you don't cost yourself any time on pit road. You max the efficiency on the 1 pit stop. And then you just come back down with about 5 laps to go to get your last splash of gas, and that should be all you need to get to the finish of this race. So there could be a little bit of strategy where maybe, after your first pit stop, maybe you're stuck behind somebody or you're stuck behind 2 or 3 cars to where it's just really difficult to pass. What you could do is run about 5 laps behind them and then come and make your last pit stop early and fill up the tank all the way back up again. Obviously, it won't be depleted because you just pitted 5 laps before, but you'll still be coming in for that same splash of gas that you would have been coming in for at the end of the race. You would just do it early in the second stint so that you could hopefully get clean air after the pit stop and be able to run really good lap times. And then you wouldn't even have to pass the guys in front of you because maybe you're just a little bit quicker. And then once they make their last pit stops, you would just easily jump them. So that's kind of a strategy call I could see somebody making if there's some kind of groupings of cars. Now, right now, there's not really any hard side-by-side battles or anybody really keeping anybody behind. So I don't think it'll happen I don't know, if it looked like this in 15 laps, I don't think it would happen. But after this first round of pit stops, we really just need to pay attention to see if there's any big gaggle of cars and to see if anybody kind of pulls that strategy play to try to jump a couple drivers.
Yeah, that sounds like that could be a worthwhile call. I mean, I would definitely very considerable, or I would consider that if I was one of these drivers out here, to maybe just do like a little quick stop to try to get back out there and, like you said, get clean air. I think that's the huge thing. We saw lap traffic. I mean, Ron Harrington has been kind of holding up some drivers. He held up Mark Royce there for a couple laps, and now he's going to be holding up EJ Luna. EJ, oh, did EJ get into his rear end? I think he might have. As you see Ron Harrington up into the guardrail, he misses the bus stop completely. There is we were just talking about. I was just
Could we
getting
get
ready
another
to start
replay of
talking
that
about
from
Ron. Yeah,
EJ's cockpit? Maybe. I mean, that was really tight. I couldn't quite tell for sure, but that's one of the most dangerous spots to kind of catch a lap car. You know, through the bus stop, there's just so much of a disparity of speed. Oh, yeah, EJ definitely just kind of got it. And Ron was actually really trying to give him the entry of the bus stop. He was pulling over to the side, trying to let EJ go before the bus stop. So I actually really respect Ron Harrington for what he was trying to do there, but it just didn't work out the way that he had expected. And I honestly feel really bad for him because I think he was doing a good job of getting out of the way before the bus stop to not cost EJ any time. But EJ just didn't expect it to happen. I know that they have voice chat disabled during the races, so maybe Ron just couldn't communicate exactly what he was doing to EJ, but I think he was doing the noble thing and getting out of the way for a lead lap truck, but it just kind of went wrong.
yeah, definitely, it very much did, and that's unfortunate for Ron Harrington. I mean, I think what it came down to, I don't think EJ meant to do that either. I think it came down to really just differences in pace and braking zones, and because Ron was being as careful as he could be to try to let him go. A lot of times, careful sometimes can be more dangerous than if he had just tried to run more of a predictable line. I mean, but it's all about the braking zone there, and you can see that Ron Harrington was carrying way less speed than EJ Luna, and EJ really couldn't predict much slower he was going to be, and just kind of a miscommunication there. That I think if they had the ability to communicate with one another there on the radios, it might have went a little bit different.
Yeah, it's really hard to let somebody go in the braking zone. Maybe the smarter thing would have been to let off the gas coming out of the S's, kind of being aware, hey, I'm going to let him go before the bus stop. But again, the thought was there from Ron Harrington, and I just feel bad for him that he had to go into the wall like that. He was kind of struggling here early. And the bus stop is one of the most difficult corners to get through on this track. Like I mentioned, there's a big disparity of speed going through that corner, even between the fastest drivers, right? There could be the fastest guy on the racetrack could be slow or 2/10 slower than the second fastest driver on the racetrack through the bus stop, but maybe they're just faster everywhere else. There's the disparity of speed in the braking zone through that corner. You have to just commit so heavily into that corner to get the maximum speed through it. So it's really an unfortunate situation. But I'm kind of looking at the battle for P3. Justin LeBlanc got by Mark Royce not too long ago for the 4th position, and has actually started slowly running down Bobby Mantle for this 3rd place position. He's really wanting to get interviewed this week, I think. I imagine that's why he's trying so hard. He wants to be up in the booth with us for a couple minutes. But he's doing a great job here, just running down Bobby Mantle, being very, very consistent, slowly eking into that gap lap by lap.
Yeah, definitely a great job so far for LeBlanc. I mean, he's been running some really good laps. Last time by, he was about 3/10 faster than Bobby Mantle. So if he can keep this up, he should be able to make something happen here. This is one of the best races we've seen from LeBlanc. I mean, he's been one that I think has been on the on the side of very much bad luck. Has gotten involved in a lot of accidents, a lot of just things have not gone his way, and pretty much this entire season, I'd say. I mean, just has not been able to find the success he's found in other seasons. But looks like he's well on track to maybe find some success here today. I mean, very fast. I mean, he's definitely top 3 lap times right now. Let's see if he can make the pass, though. It's one thing to catch someone. It's another thing completely to pass here. And, of course, Bobby Mantle sees, LeBlanc coming as well. So we'll have to see how this kind of plays out. We see a little bit of a blinking issue as well from Mantle. So we'll have to wait and see how this kind of all plays out as they complete lap number, I do believe, 20. So 20 laps in now. We're about a third of the way through the race. We got a slow car in the bus stop again, and that is Ron Harrington.
And we've got a replay of Ron going into turn 6. We'll have to see what happens to him through turn number 6. He just goes a little off track here, it looks like. Yeah, he gets a 1X there for going off the track. Just gets out of the way for Dale Brooks. Again, good job from Ron Harrington. He's just getting out of the way of the guys that are on the lead lap, not affecting anybody else's races. So good job from Ron. We got another replay of him going into the bus stop. Let's see. It looks like he just goes straight on. Yeah, he just goes straight on. Maybe, again, to just get out of the 78 truck's way of Josh Camphor. I think Ron is kind of aware that he's not really battling anybody at this point. So, good job from Ron. Just make sure he doesn't affect anybody else in the race. Very respectable drive from him.
Yeah, definitely a great job for Ron Harrington to try to, just to try to stay out of the way and get some laps turned out here. I wish he had put maybe some more time in to get a little bit quicker out here, but still trying to do the best he can here, and hopefully he'll get better and better as we see the seasons that come on. Of course, he's been always fast, and of course we're gonna take a quick commercial break while we have a moment here, and we'll be right back with the remaining laps here at Watkins Glen as Stephen Hayes leads the field.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to GridVision's coverage of the Global Racing Truck Series at Watkins Glen. Of course, my name is Brian Britt. I have Austin Edstrom down behind, not down behind, beside me in the commentating booth. Of course, Austin Derbyshire is behind the cameras. Daniel Watt is in the lead at the moment, as I do believe we just saw a bunch of green flag pit stops. Stephen Hayes, our previous leader, actually has already came down. He's now back to 6th place. So, Austin, you kind of seemed a little bit shocked to see some of these guys pit this early.
Yeah, I imagine what we're seeing from Stephen Hayes is that he's going to take tires on both pit stops, cutting the race into thirds like that. I imagine he's going to, I think it was lap 22 that he pitted on, so maybe he wants to run 22 to then like 43, 44, 45, and he'll pit again, and maybe he'll take tires again, but I feel like the fastest way around would probably be to do the one pit stop at lap 28, right on the edge of your fuel window, fill it all the way up, take the tires the one time, and then the second time you come down and you just take a splash of gas. So I don't know, he might still just do the splash of gas thing, but He will have to fill up the tank a little bit more because he didn't run the first stage quite as long, but he did have about a 6-second gap, so I don't necessarily think it's going to be a huge problem from him. I think that he's kind of on a strategy call of his own, and he's kind of in his own league right now to where it's probably not that big of an issue, but I don't think that he's necessarily being the most efficient with that call. But again, with the 6-second lead, maybe he just thought, okay, I'm just going to put on the tires and try to stretch that gap out a little bit more, being on the fresh rubber for a few laps. But once Daniel Ott comes back down pit road for his first pit stop and puts on his tires, he will have fresher tires than Stephen Hayes for the entirety of the rest of the race. So I'm a little surprised from Stephen Hayes in this strategy call, but with him having that gap originally, I feel like it'll still work out for him. But that does kind of add a little bit of intrigue to this race, because I thought Stephen Hayes was just going to run away with it. But if Daniel Ott does a little bit more of an efficient job with the strategy, he could kind of find himself back up battling the leader here.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's a huge deal when it comes to strategy. If you're able to make something happen, that's a little bit off the wall, pure pace might not be the end-all be-all. I mean, we see Stephen Hayes, though, really running some really good laps. A minute 13.814. That's the fastest lap of the race thus far. First lap, I do believe that is sub minute 14.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention how important strategy can be. Last night, of course, we called the Majors Series. Me and David Land were on the call for that race, and we saw strategy literally won that race. I mean, because a guy was able to make it. Oh, Mark Royce, through the S's, gets really loose in front of DJ Honeycutt, somehow saves it. We're going to have to take a replay on that one.
Both of those drivers had already pitted. Also, they were running close to the top 5 before they pitted. But yeah, strategy can make a big decision in deciding the factor of this race towards the end of it. But as we mentioned, with Stephen Hayes being on the new tires, he is setting absolutely blistering lap times. It's just that I'm worried that he's going to have to run them longer, or that he's going to have to take a longer pit stop to put on new tires on his second pit stop. So I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it. I think that he'll end up coming out of the pit stop with a bigger lead than what he had beforehand. It's just dependent on how long his second stop's going to be. As we cut to Justin LeBlanc, he just made a really good diving move to the inside of Bobby Mantle. He's been running him down, hounding him lap after lap for about the last 10 laps, and he finally gets the move done after he kind of cuts into that second and a half gap that he had after he took the 4th place position. And now he's up into, well, it says P2 right now, but it's really P3 after pit stop cycled through. But we see him just kind of peek to the inside before the bus stop, heavy on the brakes, later on the brakes than Bobby Mantle, and he just absolutely takes that great power move going into the braking zone at the bus stop there from Justin LeBlanc. And he's running an absolutely amazing race compared to what we've seen from him in the past.
No, yeah, he is. I mean, he looks very confident in the race car here as we got a battle developing. EJ Luna, DJ Honeycutt, Mark Royce, all these drivers right here on top of each other. You can tell that EJ Luna's trying his best to get some positions back here. Of course, they're all stuck behind Camper. Camper has not been pretty much inside the top 10 all race long, but he's kind of holding up and making somewhat of a bad situation for a lot of these drivers where they're all side-by-side double file racing at Watkins Glen. You don't usually like to see that. Like this. I mean, you can see Camper still is kind of making a bottleneck for a lot of these other drivers.
Yeah, I don't like seeing it from the driver's seat, but I love seeing it from the broadcast booth, seeing them go 2 by 2 through the carousel, really tight exit on that racetrack, especially, I mean, whenever it's in the trucks, it is just so much harder. The A car, you just feel like you have so much grip and you're a Superman, or you're a superhuman just kind of going through the corners with how much grip you have. But in the trucks, man, you got to feather the throttle. You got to make sure that back end doesn't come around. So great job from all those drivers there in that little bit of a gaggle we saw going through the carousel into turn number 6 to get through to the other side cleanly. And we still have a good battle between all 4 of them coming off of turn number 1.
Yeah, Stephen Hayes actually just made the pass there on David Holsey, and that moves him up to the 4th place position. So he is definitely driving through the field right now. Of course, Stephen Hayes has about 8 seconds to go to get up to Bobby Mantle. Also, very good recovery from Michael Hayes, who we're kind of watching right now. He just got by DJ Honeycutt. He's up to now 10th place. Of course, Michael Hayes started pretty much towards the back of the field. Had a little bit of an issue where he spun it a little bit, but has gotten it righted and is back on track, I think, to maybe finish top 10 here.
And, we're kind of getting to that point of the race, that point of the run anyway, where, we're making lap 28 right now for the leaders, to where we would really expect to see Daniel Ott, Justin LeBlanc, Bobby Mantle come and pit this time by. I'd be really interested to see if we don't, right? Have any of these guys been saving gas to try to make it a 1-stop race instead of a 2-stop race? That could absolutely decide the race in terms of strategy. So we really want to pay attention to Daniel Ott here, right? He's been running fast lap times. He was just about as quick as our leader, Stephen Hayes, beforehand. If he can stretch this out another lap or two, he could absolutely win this race just off of pure strategy. So it's really interesting. Does he stay out here? It looks like, yeah, he's going to stay out. He's actually got a little bit more in the tank. If he can stretch this to lap 30, we could see him make a one-stop race.
And that would change the entire game. I mean, that Stephen Hayes would pretty much have to be turning really, really fast laps. He would have to continuously hit second lap faster than Daniel Ott, and I just don't see that being the case. I mean, with how the tires seem to be wearing at this racetrack. So Daniel Ott could be on a winning strategy if he can make it this lap, and I think one more. I think he's going to be good to go. You know,
all of the top 3 stayed out. So any of those guys could make this work. I mean, I'm really shocked to see these guys really stretch it as far as they have. I'm really interested, especially in Daniel Ott. You know, the other 2 are so far back. I feel like Stephen Hayes could maybe beat them doing the 2-stop. But with Daniel Ott being 22 seconds in front of Stephen Hayes the last time they come across the line, if he stretches this thing out to 30 laps, he might have a chance to win this.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely does. He's got the speed to do it as well. We'll have to see if he's going to be able to. He's got some issues right in front of him, that is Ricky Hudgens that goes around on the exit, I do believe, of the carousel. So that's going to be an interesting issue there. And we knew lap traffic was going to be a factor. And I think it's becoming more of a factor for Daniel Ott as he gets a little bit loose off of the last corner there. And he's going to go for another lap. If he can make it another lap here, he can make it the rest of the race.
That looked a little weird to me. Like, almost like he was really trying to it almost looked like he was trying to maximize pit entry. I don't know. Well, I mean, it looked like he wanted to come to pit road with how that nose was pointed coming off the last corner, but then he just didn't. I really hope he's got enough fuel to make it around this lap. But man, if he can make it to the end of this lap, he's going to have a hell of a chance. Justin LeBlanc stayed out too. Bobby Mantle stayed out. I mean, our top 3, they could have just been saving fuel this whole time.
Could very well be, but I'm seeing Daniel Ott shaking the vehicle. I'm wondering if maybe it's starting to sputter on him.
If it's sputtering now, he's not going to make it around.
Here
he will, but it'll be so slow.
I think he's going to maybe make it to pit road, but I mean, he just is not looking near as fast. He's still got some gas in the tank.
He's good. He's good for it right now. And if he stays out another lap, that just means he has to save 1 less lap on the next run. So if he can, I don't know, if he can do this 1 more lap, then he'll be amazing to the good. But I think that he's going to come to pit road. Yeah, he is. So he's going to have to save 1 more lap on this next stint than he did this one. But still, just being able to do that, he's going for the one-stop strategy. All the front 3 are going for the one-stop strategy. So this is extremely impressive that he's been able to extend his fuel load to this point. Looks like our second-place driver, Justin LeBlanc's coming down to pit road. Bobby Mantle is actually going to stay out again, so he has to save 1 less lap next time around if he can make it all the way around this time. So that's an interesting strategy call from Bobby Mantle. He's just saved a little bit more. Maybe that's why we saw him so slow at the beginning of this race, because, you know, at Mid-Ohio, he was just as fast as Stephen Hayes. He was just as fast as Austin McGill for a lot of that race. So maybe he was falling off on strategy, just trying to make sure he saved enough gas to make it a one-stop race. And that is actually going to jump him above Stephen Hayes after Stephen takes his second pit stop.
That's interesting. I mean, Bobby, he's making sure that he can make it now. So if Daniel Ott or LeBlanc run out of gas on the final lap, Mantle won't. So that's going to be a big deal. And maybe him saving that extra lap will also allow him to really turn faster laps towards the end of the race, where he won't have to save like those other guys did. And that could be there's a lot of competing strategies here that I think it's going to be interesting to see which one comes out on top. We love to see it here on GridVision, all the intrigue.
Yeah, I was not expecting to see this turn into this style of strategy race. I thought it was just a little bit outside of the fuel window for these guys to be able to stretch it like this, but all 3 of them did a great job. But Bobby Mantle has done it. Oh my goodness, Bobby Mantle staying out another lap. He's got so much gas left in the tank, he's not going to have to save it all on his next run.
That's kind of interesting. He's got about 2.8 seconds back to Stephen Hayes here. I wonder why he's staying out so long. I mean, you think it's just so he can run just insanely fast laps in this last run. So this whole stint, I think he's been pretty much throwing it away. Kind of like not really trying to be that fast. Even though he's been saving, he has been still somewhat competitive. This is kind of crazy to see this from Mantle. I mean, really big brain stuff.
Well, you got to think, if we thought the fuel mileage length was 28 laps, then you really have to think, okay, you would have to save 2 to 3 laps per stint. You'd have to save 2 laps on one and 3 laps on the other. So for him pushing this 4 laps saved on this stint, he might only have to save half a lap to a lap over the last stint. So he's just cutting down how much he's going to have to save over the last run. And, if he's got the fuel in the tank to make it that extra lap like he has this time, the extra 2 laps on the other 2, then that just means he has to save way, way less than the other 2 on the last run. And like you mentioned, they could run out of gas on the last lap, if they're having to save that much. And Bobby Mantle has proven that you're capable of doing it, but you just have to give up a ton of time. But even with that, he was still ahead of Stephen Hayes whenever he makes this pit stop. In his mind, he's pitting 1 time, and he was 3 seconds ahead of Stephen Hayes at the time of pitting. And we know Stephen Hayes still has to pit 1 more time. So
Yeah.
the strategy, it just depends on, whether Stephen Hayes takes tires, how much gas he has to fill up, depending on, how long that run will end up being. But Bobby Mantle is going to be able to go balls to the wall on this last run, not save much at all, and be able to, really kind of close that gap back down. So Bobby Mantle might be in the driver's seat of this race.
No, I think he very well could be. I mean, it just really depends. Of course, he is still on pit road right now. He has lost the positions down to Daniel Watt and Justin LeBlanc. So I do believe once Hayes goes down pit road, will be the leader again. Bobby Mantle is now, I do believe, about 3.5 seconds, 4 seconds, so or around there, behind LeBlanc now. He has come off of pit road, and he's trying to get back up to speed now. I do believe his Chad McGinley as well really went long. He actually is just now coming down pit road, and coming off, I should say. So 2 drivers on that kind of stop. Of course, McGinley had fallen way, way, way through the field, so he lost a lot more time than Mantle did on that strategy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's still going to work out well for Chad McGinley, where he'll probably still get a top 5 finish. So I think the strategy is still worth it for him. But with how good Bobby Mantle saved and still ran relatively quick laps, I mean, I just can't believe he saved that many laps and was able to only fall back to, 4th position. So I'm really impressed with Bobby Mantle. I'm interested to see how far behind Stephen Hayes he is, coming to the line this time whenever my iRacing, whatever it is, the results page kind of cycles through. I haven't been paying too much attention to the ticker, but Bobby Mantle, let's see, he's going to be coming across the line right now. He's still in 4th position, and he is 34 seconds behind the leader, and the leader still has to make a pit stop, and Bobby does not. So I cannot believe how close this is actually going to come down to strategy at the end of this race. I'm really interested to see what kind of lap times Bobby starts putting in now that he's in clean air, new tires, and not really having to save any fuel. So this is interesting how the strategy is kind of flip-flopped. I did not think this was going to be a strategy race at all. I did not think these drivers could save that many laps of fuel at a huge road course like this. But Bobby Mantle has proven me completely wrong at the middle portion of this race. So I thought this was going to get strung out and kind of boring at some point, but now I'm all on the edge of my seat, just ready to see how the strategy plays out.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Watt as well as surprised us. We did not. He's kind of the first one that put it on the radar that you might be able to just one-stomp this race, and he's also one that is definitely in contention to win this race, as he's actually getting by Ron Harrington at the moment to try to put him a lap down. He's about 17 seconds now back from Stephen Hayes. So yeah, Daniel Watt, Justin LeBlanc, Bobby Mantle, all 3 of those drivers are in contention to possibly win this race. And you know what? This has got to be a heartbreaker for Stephen Hayes. He's probably seeing that this is developing right now, and he's already set himself into the strategy. He's committed. He's got to stick with it. But he's seen races get away from him like this before because of strategy. I mean, I'm trying to remember which race it was, but it wasn't that long ago that Stephen Hayes led the majority of the race, but was on the wrong strategy and lost. But of course, we're watching right now Daniel Watt and Justin LeBlanc and Bobby Mantle. Mantle turning an incredibly fast lap last time by a minute 13.035. That is the fastest lap of the race thus far. That's faster than everybody by at least a half a second. It's showing that he was saving. He was playing games earlier in this race.
Yeah, I just started talking about that, but I didn't realize my mic was muted, and then you started talking about the same thing. I was like, what the heck's going on here? But yeah, he's 0.4 of a second quicker than Stephen Hayes' fastest lap, so we know for a fact he was just saving hard from the get-go of this race. Absolutely mega impressive from Bobby Mantle. He's about to come through and finish his second complete lap from the pit stop. We'll see if he can kind of continue that pace If he can stay in the low 113s for a while, he's going to have a really good chance. That's a 113.28. That's now 2 laps in a row, fastest than anybody else's fastest lap of the race. So Bobby Mantle might just be on the winning strategy here. He's pushing that car all the way to the limits now, not saving any gas, and he is cutting into the lead.
Oh yeah, he is flying right now. I think very soon he's going to be catching up to Justin LeBlanc, and I think LeBlanc and Daniel Otter are still somewhat in save mode, because they still do have to save in order to make it to the end of the race. Of course, we see an issue, I do believe, with Stephen Knight coming out of turn number 8, so not sure exactly what happened with that driver. Of course, looks like that's not a good place to come off the corner slow, so we're going to take a replay and see exactly what happened with the 79. The 79's been turning some really good laps, though. Unfortunately, it seems like something went wrong here as he was racing, I do believe, with DJ Honeycutt. And I think that was for position. Looks like Stephen Knight actually misses the corner, locks up the tires, hits the wall a little bit, but not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, he just kind of had that rear end brake loose, under braking, trying to outbrake the driver that was on his inside, and just kind of had the back end come around on him, and he just overcorrected a little bit. No, not really any hard contact into the wall, so he's probably fine. Just kind of loses a little bit of time. But I want to point out, Stephen Hayes' last 5 laps have been a 14.6, a 14.2, a 14.4, a 14.7, and a 14.5. And we've been seeing Chad McGinley since he's come out of, or sorry, not Chad McGinley, Bobby Mantle, since he has come out of pit road, has run a 13.0, 13.2, and a 13.7. So he is cutting into that lead, almost a second a lap on Stephen Hayes, and we know Stephen Hayes still has to make a pit stop. He's 30 seconds back right now, but given how long it takes to get down this slow pit road here at the Glen, we know that that is going to be a huge deficit to Stephen Hayes whenever he has to come back down pit road. I think he's kind of in the part where he has to take tires the second time down so that he can kind of cut back into Bobby. I think Bobby's absolutely going to pass him on the pit stop. So what Stephen needs to do is probably take the tires and just try to be on better tires than Bobby for the rest of the race and run him back down. I don't know. It's going to be really close coming to the end of this race.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be close for Stephen Hayes. I think that he's going to be somewhat outside of the conversation. If I was to predict what's going to happen is I think the battle really is going to come down between Daniel Ott and Mantle. I think because you see Mantle, he's all over LeBlanc right now. He's getting ready to take this 3rd spot away. And, can he make up, though, 12 seconds, 13 seconds to get up to Ott? I think that's going to be the big deal. Like you said, Stephen Hayes, it takes 43 seconds to get from one lane, the beginning of pit lane, to the other. That means he's going to be about 10 or so seconds back from Mantle when he comes back off of pit road. And, it just really depends. Can Hayes match the kind of laps that Mantle was turning earlier? I think that's going to be the key. Can he hit 13 laps? And also, I think it's all going to come down to how much does LeBlanc hold up Mantle here?
I was just about to say LeBlanc is Stephen Hayes' best friend right now, and that is a teammate, Lone Star Racing, Justin LeBlanc. But Justin LeBlanc is still having to save gas, right? He's still having to save so that he can make it to the end of this run. He didn't push it as far as Bobby Mantle did, so he is holding him up just a little bit. Bobby Mantle might need to use the bumper and jump to kind of move Justin LeBlanc out of the way, maybe down into turn number 1 if he can't get a good run out of the last corner. Bobby just cannot waste any time sitting behind Justin LeBlanc.
No, not at all. And he's definitely wasting a lot of time doing that right now. And you can tell LeBlanc definitely just not wanting to let him go as here comes Mantle. He's going to try to get to the inside, not able to get there. Very difficult to pass here, even though Mantle has been the fastest car so far, pretty much late. The second half of this race, he has been the fastest car. That does not seem to be helping him actually make that pass stick, as you see Justin LeBlanc is making that car pretty much 5 wide all by himself. It's crunch time. You can tell that, I guarantee you that LeBlanc and Hayes are in each other's ears right now, and LeBlanc's probably saying that he is all over me right now. What do I do?
Even with LeBlanc kind of holding up Bobby Mantle here from what it looks like, Bobby is still a second a lap faster than Steven. That's how much the new tires have meant. I kind of downplayed the tire, how much the tires mean, but it seems that they actually mean a whole hell of a lot more than I thought. And especially with the track temp being so hot, we started at 119, we're at 112 right now. It does just kind of melt those tires a little bit quicker than some of the A-Opens that I've been in this week. So even with him being held up, he's still making up time. But here it is, Stephen Hayes actually making the pit stop a little bit earlier than what I expected, right? He made that pit stop on lap 22, so he had his first run being 22 laps. This run is going to be about, 18, I believe. He cut it really short to lap number 39, so Yeah, he's really cut this second stint short just so that he can have the fresher rubber, right? He wants to minimize Bobby's advantage of the fresher rubber here. So he's actually pitting a little bit early so that he can be on the front foot for the rest of the race.
I'll tell you right now, LeBlanc is holding up Bobby Mantle substantially. You know, we saw Mantle the lap before was a minute 13.8. Last time by a minute 14.6. So this is really hurting Mantle's chances here. Daniel Ott's been kind of running away with the lap times he's been hitting here. So this is definitely changing everything. And LeBlanc's strategy here to hold up Mantle for Hayes is being successful right now. As you can see, Stephen Hayes is about 8 seconds now back from Mantle. If Hayes can run down Mantle, this is going to change a lot of the things here. I think you could see that LeBlanc is still it's working. The strategy is working right now, and also they're coming up on lamp traffic. You got to know that Bobby Mantle is probably sweating bullets right now.
Yeah, he needed to get past Justin LeBlanc as soon as possible. The lap car actually gives Bobby Mantle a chance going into the final corner. He gets to the outside of Justin LeBlanc going through turn number 7. Can he get around him on the outside? He just keeps it out of the wall on the outside. He's going to be on Justin LeBlanc's left rear quarter panel, but LeBlanc is going to have a better run down the front stretch down into turn number 1. That's not what Bobby Mantle needed. He's got to get this move done as soon as possible. He's going to dive to the inside. Hard, late braking, going down into turn number 1. Bobby Mantle gets to the inside of Justin LeBlanc. Just about makes contact. They do, making contact off of turn number 1, and Bobby's going to have to give the position back.
I mean, LeBlanc is very much racing Bobby Mantle very hard right now. You can just tell that he does not want to give this position up, and this is really impacting their lap time substantially. And this is going to bring Hayes. Look at how much Hayes has caught up to these guys because of this battling. I mean, he was about 8 seconds back from these drivers before. Now he's 5.4. He has gained over over 2 seconds essentially. I mean, this is turning this race into a crazy show here as we have coming up to, I do believe, 20 laps to go. Daniel Ott is in prime position. If these guys continue to race each other like this, I think this is Ott's race to lose, because if he's pretty much able to he's having a good old time. Clean air, Sunday drive here.
He's saving gas and pulling out a little bit of a lead on the 2 guys behind him. Bobby Mantle gets a little bit wider entry going into the final corner. He's going to try to make the undercut move work down into turn number 1. Doesn't quite get the run off of the last corner that he needed. He got just a little bit loose. Oh, man, poor Bobby Mantle. He just cannot get past Justin LeBlanc. I'm going to tell you right now, Stephen Hayes, after this race, is going to need to buy Justin LeBlanc a Whataburger meal and a Red Bull, because, I mean, he is doing everything in his power to keep Bobby Mantle behind him. Bobby actually gets a better run out of turn number 1, though. They're going side by side through the S's. He's going to have the better line going into the second corner of the S's, and he finally gets clear. It took him 6 laps to get clear of Justin LeBlanc, and that has brought Stephen Hayes. You're going to see him just a little bit further back there. They're on the same straightaway. Stephen Hayes could not see Bobby Mantle whenever he came out of the pit lane, and now they're on the same straightaway going into the bus stop. Bobby Mantle did not need to see that. I think he's good on gas, but Stephen Hayes has the better tires for the rest of this race, and they've cost themselves some time to the other driver that needs to save a little bit, Daniel Ott. Daniel Ott could be in the driver's seat of this race because Stephen Hayes still has to make up 19 seconds on him.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a very tough hill to climb here for Bobby Mantle. I mean, I guarantee you that LeBlanc's going to let Stephen Hayes go fairly easily. I don't think it's going to look anything like what we just saw there with Mantle and LeBlanc. That was a fight right there. Those guys were throwing blows. I would not be surprised to see Mantle and LeBlanc having some conversations after the race. Like, hey, man, what the heck was that all about? But, I mean, teamwork, man. Teamwork makes the dream work. And you look at it, Stephen Hayes turning some really fast laps as well. As soon as Mantle got by LeBlanc, lap time started going back up again, though, or going down again. So you could tell how much he was being held up there. He's going to try his best to see if he can't possibly catch up to Ott. He's even now faster than Ott again. He's 13.5 seconds back from Daniel Ott here. But, of course, Justin LeBlanc soon to possibly be letting Stephen Hayes go. I am curious to watch to see how the 85 treats the 13. They're on the same team. I really am curious to see if he lets him go in the same vein, because I'm sure Mantle's going to have a lot to say about that if he does let him go very easily.
I think he definitely will, but I also want to sing Justin LeBlanc's praises because I don't think that he did anything wrong in that battle with Bobby Mantle either, right? He ran a defensive race, didn't do anything erratic. He was very predictable. He was just quick enough to stay in front of Mantle for the long haul of that run right there. So I don't have any ill will towards Justin LeBlanc on that move, right? He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't make any substantial contact, and I don't know. He just did a really, really good job of driving defensive. And I do think that he's going to have to be on the fuel-saving mend a little bit here now. I think he did a little bit of running out his fuel tank a little bit more than he wanted to, doing the defending. But, with him having such a big gap to the 5th place driver of Chad McGinley, it really doesn't matter too much that he'll be saving, because I think that, Stephen Hayes is obviously going to get by him at some point. Stephen was so incredibly quick at the beginning of this race. So, if I'm Justin LeBlanc, he's probably thinking, I'm finishing 4th place anyway. Let's just try to help out the teammate a little bit. So, honestly, a good job from him not making that situation, worse for anybody. He just held up Bobby Mantle in a very fair way, but it has brought Stephen Hayes right up to the back bumper of LeBlanc now, just about under a second back going into the bus stop, and Bobby Mantle is not too far up the road.
Yeah, I agree that LeBlanc didn't do anything too egregious there. But I think from Bobby Mantle's shoes, if I was sitting in his car and I was driving his car and LeBlanc was doing that to me, I would have been a lot more. I would be very upset, But like from our perspective up here, LeBlanc was just doing what he thought he needed to do. He wasn't really. He was just racing, But I mean, when you're in the car and you're faster than someone, but you can't seem to get by him, that is one of the most frustrating things that you can deal with as a race car driver in iRacing. And all that really brought Hayes back into the conversation. I mean, of course, he was already in the conversation, but still, his chances had went down quite substantially. There goes. He lets him go. He just lets him go. He's just like, go on ahead, buddy. Hey.
Oh man, we knew that was going to happen. And no, but you're absolutely right. Like if I'm in Bobby Mantle's shoes, I am pissed. I'm so mad. But again, I said towards the beginning of that run or that battle, he needed to just give LeBlanc the bumper, right? At that point, you hate to be too rough, but you got to know you're racing for the win. You got to have as much gap to Stephen Hayes as possible after Stephen comes off the pit road. On lap 1 or 2 of me getting held up right there, I would have moved LeBlanc out of the way, because LeBlanc's got to fuel save. Right? Yeah, exactly. You gotta know LeBlanc's gonna have to fuel save way more than you at some point in the run. So you gotta know, okay, I gotta get by him as soon as possible. Just going into turn 1, right? All you gotta do is give him a little nudge, get him off the track just a little bit, and get by him into S's. And he just, he was maybe a little bit too respectful, in my opinion, right? I just think that, you're running for the win. Ship him out of the way. You don't have to wreck the guy at all, but give him a little bump into turn number 1 is all you need to get him off the racetrack, get him a little squirrely. We saw him be very, very respectful, though, and I appreciate that as a driver. I appreciate seeing something like that, but if I'm in his shoes, I would have absolutely moved him way quicker than what we saw.
Yeah, definitely very respectful driver there, Bobby Mantle. He got to give him credit for it. Very, very nice guy. Doesn't want to do anything too egregious there, but unfortunately, he's going to have to pretty much race for his life here, because Stephen Hayes is not far back. But one good thing about it, though, Hayes is not that much faster than Mantle right now. Only about a tenth or so, a tenth and a half, around that mark. So if Bobby can keep up this lap times, I think he's going to be in somewhat a good shape. But it just depends on if Stephen Hayes really turns up the heat here. Of course, Daniel Ott, he's got about he's very much off the pace compared to these other drivers, but he does have 11 or so seconds of a gap. Math-wise, Austin, do you think that Bobby or Stephen have a chance to catch Ott if he keeps running these laps?
I love that you just mentioned it, because I was actually calculating it before you even said anything. The last lap by, we'll use this lap, right? Daniel Ott just ran a 14.8. Stephen Hayes just ran a 14.1. So that's 0.7 of a second that Stephen Hayes gained on Daniel Ott that lap, and we've got 15 laps to go. And Stephen Hayes is 14 seconds behind. So at that pace, if it stays that distance the entire run, Stephen Hayes will not catch Daniel Ott at all. He will not even be close. He'll be like 2 or 3 seconds behind at the end of the run. And you've also got to keep in mind, Stephen Hayes also has to get by Bobby Mantle, who does not have to make a pit stop, who does not have to, he does not have to save any gas whatsoever. So Daniel Ott's best friend is Bobby Mantle at this point. We thought Bobby Mantle was maybe the one in the driver's seat, but as long as Daniel Ott can save enough gas to get to the end of the run and not run out of gas on the last lap, that's the main thing. He's got to save one more lap than he did on the previous run, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him. But if he can do that, he's got an absolute hell of a chance to win this race. And we saw how quick he was on the first run, even though he was saving fuel. So I think Daniel Ott might be the race winner here tonight.
No, I think you're right. I really think that Ott has got a really good shot at this here. Of course, I do think that, though, we probably need to keep our eyes focused on second place, considering Mantle and Hayes are getting closer and closer to one another here. And Mantle's just fast enough that, just like LeBlanc was, that I think that he's going to hold up Hayes. And you're already, add to the mix, add to the pot of stew, that Mantle's probably pretty upset right now. I would say he's probably a little bit hot under the collar. That, and he's going to see that yellow back bumper Lone Star. I just got raced really hard by one of those orange bumpers. How am I going to react whenever I got one of them coming up on me? I don't think Mantle's going to be as nice.
Mantle will not pull over for Stephen Hayes. There's no way. We will not see what Justin LeBlanc did for Hayes. We will not see him pull over coming out of turn number 1. Stephen Hayes is going to get ran to hell from Bobby Mantle. He's going to be all over him for P2, but Bobby is not going to want to give it up because they also both know that Daniel Ott has to save more gas than he was capable of on the last run. So they know Daniel, even though he's got this gap, what if he runs out of gas coming out of the carousel and they're only 4 seconds back?
And that's for the win.
They will absolutely pass Daniel Ott if he runs out at that point. I mean, even if it's going into the second to last corner or the last corner, the freaking start-finish line is way down this front stretch. We see Bobby Mantle coming off the last corner, still not there, and he's there now. That is a ton of distance that they're going to be able to make up if Daniel Ott, runs out of gas at any point on the last lap.
Well, I'll tell you what, it has been such an exciting race. We've been kind of neglecting our sponsors, and I think we'll go ahead and try to satiate them while we have a moment before the race really kicks off. I'll tell you, it's been so exciting. We appreciate everybody out there tuning in, but we'll be right back with the remaining laps here on GridVision.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to GridVision's coverage of the Global Racing Truck Series at Watkins Glen. And it has been an exciting race. We have been sitting on the edge of our seats. We have no clue who is going to win this race. Daniel Ott, right now, is the leader, but for how long? He's got about 8.8 seconds back to Bobby Mantle. We think he's in save mode at the moment. Of course, Bobby Mantle has about 1.8 seconds back to Stephen Hayes. They've been trading faster laps there between those two. So this is essentially a 3-car battle for the win. Whose strategy is going to succeed? We're definitely going to find out in less than now 10 laps, coming up to 9 laps to go. Now, one thing we kind of discussed during the commercial break was when was the last time that Daniel Ott won a race? This was actually many months ago at Martinsville. Now, that's a track that you have to be really good at braking at, so no wonder Ott's being so good here today.
Yeah, that's a good shout. The short tracks and road courses actually have a lot in common with the heavy braking zones, and this is one of the rare road courses where it's just so fast, man. It really fits the NASCAR vehicles pretty well because it's just got that speed that you're used to from the ovals. You really don't have to slow down too heavily into crazy slow corners like you would at a Sonoma, at a Coda, at an Indianapolis road course. So it fits more in the wheelhouse of normal NASCAR drivers. So I see a lot of NASCAR drivers come over, or oval predominant drivers come over and run really good at the Glen because it just feels more like an oval than other road courses. And I know that's weird to say, especially because you're turning right more than you're turning left at this track, but it is probably the most oval-esque road course that we go to.
100%. As we come now to 8 laps to go here in just a moment. Daniel Ott, 8.2 seconds now is his gap. I know when we were on the commercial, he was like a second slower than Mantle and Hayes, but it seems like he's turned it up again to I think he sees that those guys are going to catch him. I think he's really teetering on the edge of making it here on fuel.
We were talking last week about At the Top Motorsports kind of coming out and shocking everybody with the 1-2 finish, and it really probably could have been a 1-2-3 finish, and they hadn't really been the fastest guys for a while, right? We had been seeing Lone Star who was Austin McGill's team? I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
Austin McGill, that is 5 Aces.
5 Aces, thank you. Lone Star and 5 Aces have kind of been dominating the last little portion of this season. They've really been the fast guys. Last week, though, we saw At the Top Motorsports come out of nowhere and just dominate that event. And here we've got Asphalt Motorsports up front with Daniel Ott really flexing their muscles. So we've just been seeing the last couple of weeks, a couple different contenders have risen to the top. I'm just really interested to see, the parity that we've been seeing the last couple of weeks between the fast guys and even the parity today. We've got Asphalt Motorsports at the top and Lone Star in the top 3. Really good just to see 3 different organizations really, bring it to the top of this event here today. Awesome to see different drivers up front.
No, yeah, 100%. No, I totally agree. I mean, we've seen pretty much the entire season it has been controlled by 5 Aces and Lone Star. Early in the season we did see Dirty South definitely was very fast, but this has got to be a call to action for them. And I think that the guys that are answering this call to action that Lone Star and 5 Aces have kind of provoked have been Asphalt, have been at the top. That this is the time I'd want to be heating up, right? This is when we're getting closer to the playoffs. This is when you really need to start putting your nose to the grindstone to get some points. And I think these guys are really, they're getting hot at the right time. This is when you need to get hot.
Man, Bobby Mantle is starting to lay down some really quick lap times. 14.3 the last time by. Oh, man, that time he actually slipped a little bit and ran a 14.9. Still faster than our leader, but not by enough to catch him unless he runs out of gas. I'm just really interested in, does Daniel Ott have enough gas? Has he saved enough towards the end of this race to where he can make it to the finish line where he won't have to major save over the last couple of laps? We've got 7 laps to go, and he's, smooth sailing at this point. I'd be really interested just to be able to know how much gas he's actually got left in the tank. How much has he been saving? Has he been clutching going into the heavy braking zones of turn number 1, into the bus stop, into the second to last corner? Has he been clutching that machine? I really don't know. We can maybe stay on board here going into the second to last corner to see if he utilizes the clutch. Look at that RPM right in the middle of his steering wheel. Does it go down all the way down to 2K before he gets on the brakes? No, he's not saving that much. He's not getting on the clutch whatsoever going into that corner. Maybe turn 1's a different story. I don't quite know. Maybe he's short shifting a little bit, not letting the rev limiter get all the way up into the red. We'll have to see going down the front stretch how he's shifting, how he's clutching. Just stay on board with him just for a little bit longer. He's not, well, he's letting that RPM get pretty pretty up there, into the 7.5s, not too crazy. Doesn't get onto the clutch though going into the corner, so maybe he's done with the fuel saving. Maybe he's saved enough at this point to where he's comfortable. He's running fast lap times. I mean, he was only a tenth slower than Bobby Mantle there, so if he needs to save, he's definitely not.
Yeah, this is incredibly interesting to see and how this is kind of all playing out. I mean, it is coming down to the wire here. Of course, if Daniel Ott can make it on fuel, I think he's going to win. I mean, he's been maintaining about an 8-second gap on Mantle. I think we're running out of time where it's coming up to 5 laps to go. That Mantle is going to have to be like a second and a half faster a lap in order to be able to get up here and tussle with Ott, if Ott can make it. That's the key, though. Can Daniel Ott make it on fuel? I do also want to, we've been talking about this top 3 and been neglecting the, 4th and 5th as well. Justin LeBlanc, what a fantastic race he has been having here today. Best race, one of the best races he's had this season. Also, the 79 of Stephen Knight. Knight spun out earlier in this race. He's in 5th place right now. Has been having a phenomenal day. He's one of the other drivers that has hit a sub-minute 14. He's actually been showing some really good pace out here and good recovery. I mean, if I had spun out like he did, I would have probably, spun out twice from what our producer is telling us. And he's up to 5th. I mean, that's incredible, Austin.
Absolutely. It was, oh man, our leader just got by a lap car who went off track in turn number 1, scared me a little bit. But yeah, Stephen Knight, I mean, doing a great job here today. Like you said, spinning out 2 times and still running in the top 5. That's incredibly impressive there from the driver, the number 79, as we see him coming out of the carousel there, using all the racetrack, making sure he maximizes that exit. And he does have a little bit of a challenge from Chad McGinley behind him. He's about 3-4 seconds back, so maybe Chad can kind of get towards the end. I'm not sure how Stephen Knight did in terms of fuel. I don't know if he has to pit one more time, to take that splash of gas that we were talking about. Might be a strategy later. I don't know quite too well if he saved enough, but we know Chad McGinley in 6th place has saved enough. So that'll be interesting just to kind of see how the 5th place position turns out also. But, towards the front, Daniel Ott, he's actually stretching that gap out to Bobby Mantle now. He's completely out of fuel saving mode, so I imagine he's to the good. I mean, I would expect so. If he's running faster than Bobby Mantle, he's got to be good on gas, right? I mean, there's no way that he would be making that kind of mistake because he could really back it down here with 5 to go. He's got an 8.5-second gap coming to the line. I mean, he just really needs to. I mean, I can't tell how much gas he has, right? But at this point, if he is just a little shy, he could back it down a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's got such a buffer right now. He really doesn't have to worry too much. I mean, just needs to make sure he gets it home with fuel in the tank. So, I mean, I'm assuming he's got the, I'm sure he's got the fuel black box up, and he's probably looking at it right now. He's probably been constantly looking at it, and he probably might even have someone that is somewhat of a crew chief for him that might even be, looking at that for him as well. But what a great race that Daniel Ott has ran here. This is the time, like I said, to be heating up. I mean, he won earlier in the season at Martinsville. This is the time, I mean, to win right before we get ready to start going playoff racing. I mean, and what a place to do it at, Watkins Glen. I mean, a road course. We don't see a lot of road courses at in the Global Racing Truck Series, but Ott's showing that he's got the skill to drive this race car. We're going to some tracks that are going to be using that brake. Could this be the momentum he needs leading into some tracks that are in the future? I know next week I do believe we're going to the Milwaukee Mile. That's a track that utilizes a brake. That's actually a very technical racetrack, wouldn't you say, Austin?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding? I mean, that track is really difficult. Like you mentioned, heavy on the brakes after the long straightaways. Kind of a Gateway-esque track. I actually like the Milwaukee Mile more than Gateway, but I could definitely see that speed translating from this week to next week. I mean, it's very similar, the braking styles. It's just, obviously a left-hand turn only racetrack, but I don't know, like you mentioned Martinsville, the heavy braking zones there, and he won that race. I could definitely see him, maybe going back to back after this really awesome performance that he's put in today with the fuel calculations. He did run a little bit slower than second and third place there that lap, but as long as he's got the fuel in the tank to make it, they're just not going to make up that ground over the course of the next 2.5 laps.
No, I mean, this is going to be a huge confidence builder. I mean, and a huge builder for the whole team. Asphalt, as we got Mark Royce having some issues coming off of, I do believe, the carousel. He actually went through the grass, and he's still having issues. Almost gets down into Michael Hayes. He's going to lose some positions now back to 10th place. Looks like Mark Royce might have heavy damage. Something's wrong with that race car right now.
Yeah, he's been falling back towards the back of the pack. You know, he was running in the top 5 earlier in the race. I don't quite know what's happened to Mark Royce. I thought he was going to have an awesome event here today, but he's fallen back to the 10th position.
I mean, he's had a fast race car. I mean, he's really, you know, short run. That's just what his problem is. He's always fast on the short run. Seems to always have issues on the long run. But we are coming to the white flag here very soon. I do want to plug, of course, the St. Jude's Children's Hospital once again here. Mark Royce did, of course, sponsor this race on behalf of them. They have already raised $700, or you know, and we'd like to see even more possibly going to that awesome charity. So if you could maybe, you know, reach down into your heart and maybe look into our description and maybe donate as well to increase the funds there for that. We'd definitely love to see it. As, of course, Daniel Ott on the second to last lap coming out of the, I do believe the carousel just a second ago, into turn 7 and into turn 8. And then he will be taking the white flag here at Watkins Glen. Now, this is when we are all going to be on pins and needles. Can he make it this final lap? I think he can. I think he can. I want to bet that he's going to be able to make it here.
He has started to back down the pace just a little bit. He's not pushing quite as hard as he was earlier in the run. He did just kind of have a little bit of help there. Bobby Mantle was trying to get by a lap car of Mark Royce through the bus stop, through the carousel, and it cost Bobby a good second of time, maybe a little bit more than that, because he had kind of started dipping back down into the 114.5 area, and he ended up running a lot slower than that into the 116. So he definitely got cost a little bit of time there. But let's see, Daniel Ott going down into the braking zone of the bus stop. Man, he's just a little squirrely on the brakes going through the bus stop. Does he have enough gas to get through the carousel, get through turn number 6, and get through turn number 7 to come to the line? I don't know. We're going to have to find out.
And we're definitely going to find out. And I can't wait to talk to Stephen Hayes. I guarantee you that Hayes is going to be very deflated, considering this is the second race he's lost based on strategy, even though he's been one of the fastest trucks out here. That is just... it's got to be a heartbreaker. They're going to be definitely having to take a hard look at Lone Star's strategic strategies here from going forward. As Daniel Ott comes to the final corner, and he comes onto the front stretch, and he is going to win. Even if he ran out of gas right now, I think he still is going to coast there. And Daniel Ott, your winner here at Watkins Glen. What a fantastic performance from that driver, able to win with 6 seconds. As he's going to have just enough fuel to do a little bit of a burnout here on the exit of turn 1. And I think he might be out of gas there because he just did a little bit of a mini burnout. And, of course, we still have some cars that are trying to get around the racetrack here. Stephen Knight still has not finished. And he's going to be coming out to the final corner to cross the finish line as well. And still some other cars. There'll be Chad McGinley, EJ Luna still have not crossed the line. But, yeah, I do believe Daniel Ott out of gas. Mark Royce tried to do a little bit of a burnout for him. But we see the 62 now parked on the exit of turn number 1 as the 24 comes out of the final corner. And I do believe that will be the last race car to cross the line. But what a race. You see Daniel Ott just sitting there. He's got to take a tow. Ran out of gas, but hey, he won the race. What a job from the 62 as we watch the replay of him crossing the line and doing a little bit of a burnout here for us. So a little bit of a burnout there, Austin. Didn't have a whole lot of gas left to do a burnout there.
Yeah, I don't think that he had the gas to get back around and do a nice burnout for us on the front stretch, so he might have just timed that absolutely perfectly. Maybe just a tenth or two of gas back to the finish. We're going to have to ask him on the in the interview here how much gas he had left coming across the line. I imagine it had to be close because he was running really, really good lap times towards the end of that race. I mean, I can't believe that he had so much gas in the tank.
100%. Well, let's go ahead and go through our final results here. Daniel Ott, your winner here, able to make it on fuel on a one-stop strategy. Bobby Mantle as well doing the same thing. He was definitely a lot faster there at the end, but definitely a very good job there from Bobby Mantle in second place. Stephen Hayes in third. He has got to be definitely probably deflated after that one, but still a respectable job to him. Very quick driver. Fourth place, Justin LeBlanc. Very good job to him. Fifth place, Stephen Knight. Sixth place, Chad McGinley. I should mention, to go back to Stephen Knight, spun twice and finished fifth. Chad McGinley, of course, sixth. EJ Luna, seventh. Dale Brooks in eighth. Michael Hayes, ninth. And Mark Royce in 10th.
11th is going to be David Holsey. 12th, Josh Camper. 13th, DJ Honeycutt. 14th, Ron Harrington. 15th, Ricky Hudgens. 16th is Joshua Slade. 17th, Ron Holmes. And 18th, Kenny Heath.
Alrighty, that rounds out the field here. We're going to go ahead and talk to our third place finisher, get to our post-race event. And our third place finisher, Stephen Hayes. I almost regret talking to you right now. I guarantee you're not in the best of moods right now, considering this is, I think, believe the second race that you've lost based on strategy.
Yeah, it's just tough. All these guys can make it halfway, and, you know, I'm trying to leave it in higher gear to make it too, but somehow every time at these races, I'm always 2 laps short. Just, I can't save enough, apparently. But, so I try to go for the 2-stopper, and I tried my best, but, you know, I came up short.
It's definitely very interesting that you weren't able to make it. I mean, I wonder what they're doing differently. I'm hoping we'll maybe be able to get that clarification from them as well. So definitely going to have to take a hard look on maybe your saving strategy for sure. But you definitely had the speed to win the race here. If maybe the race was a few laps longer, then they wouldn't have been able to pull that off. And then you would have just won it based on speed. But still a great job to you. You know, you did a fantastic job here at Watkins Glen. You know, what about this track? Is it difficult? You know, does it seem like it fits your style, though?
I mean, I don't think it's like the most difficult road course. I mean, all these guys are doing pretty good here. It's just a really high speed, you know, keeping your momentum up, and that's the main thing about this track, and I was able to do that pretty good. You know, I think one of the main problems I had talking about strategy was I was pulling way too quick, and I think that was just burning it all up. But yeah, I mean, it's just a fun track. It's a little bit easier of a course, and it was just fun to race this one.
Well, I'm guaranteeing you're definitely hate to see that one, you know, go and, you know, you lose on the strategy call, but still a really good points day for you. Of course, I do believe you're still probably going to beat the points leader after this race. We'll have to wait and see how that kind of works out. But of course, third place, not a bad day at all. Next week, we're going to be heading to Milwaukee Mile. How do you feel about that racetrack? Do you feel confident there?
Well, I'm not even sure if I'm going to make that race. I'm going on a vacation, but we'll see if I make it back in time. But you know, I've done a couple races there in ARCA, and I've done okay. I've never raced it in trucks, so it's going to be the first time there. We'll see how it goes. Usually it's a good finish, but again, if I make that race, we'll see.
All right, well, definitely looking forward to. Hopefully, we'll get to see it, because if you're not there, that's going to be a huge points deficit that you're going to have to work your way out of. But knowing you're fast enough, you'll probably be able to do it. But either way, have fun on your vacation. Be safe, Steven. Who can we give a shout out to?
Daniel Ott and Bobby Mantle, man, they had some fast cars tonight. Definitely had a strategy saving, but yeah, good win to Daniel Ott. Mark Roy's setting up this charity race with St. Jude's. It's a great cause, and all these guys chipping in. I think we got up to 700 or over 700, so that's just amazing that everybody did that and chipped in on that. You guys up in the booth, man, I love watching these races over, seeing what I could have done differently, and just seeing all the battles play out, so thank you to you guys.
Well, thank you for putting on such a great show, man. I mean, it wouldn't be as entertaining to go back and watch if you guys weren't doing as great a job as y'all are. So we thank you, Steven, and you have a great day, buddy.
Thank you, Brian.
Alrighty, that was, of course, Stephen Hayes. Definitely fantastic run from him. Unfortunately, got pretty much undone by strategy. Austin Edstrom standing by with one of the pioneers of strategy here, Bobby Mantle.
Yeah, Bobby, that was a really good race. After the pit stop, I thought you were the man to beat, if I'm being honest. It just seemed like you got held up whenever you were on the freshest tires, whenever you could have maybe made up the most ground there behind Justin LeBlanc. Do you think, you know, if you could have gotten by him a little bit earlier, that maybe you could have given Daniel a run for his money there towards the end?
I think it would have been a lot closer. I don't know if I would have bridged that gap completely, but I know I was being held up a little bit.
Yeah, you look like you were. I mean, I couldn't believe how much you saved on the first run to be able to make it. I believe you pitted on lap 32. I couldn't believe that you were able to stretch the fuel that much. I believe we had our calculations at 28 to 29 laps. So was your strategy just to save everything you possibly could on the first run so that you didn't have to save and you could be on the front foot for the second?
Yeah, exactly. I was a little too conservative, but that was the plan going into it. Try to prolong the first stint as long as I can, come out and just run the second stint as hard as I could. But I saved one extra lap that I didn't need to, and I should have pitted one lap sooner, and it might have been a different outcome today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I thought you were gonna, get back by him pretty quick. I was upset you didn't use the bumper on LeBlanc. Do you think maybe in hindsight, maybe going into turn one of those times that you maybe should have given him the bumper towards the beginning of that battle?
Maybe I was really trying to hold off on doing that. I like to pass guys cleanly. I don't really want to do the bump and run if I can avoid it, but if I start getting held up too much and frustrations get high, you're going to get the chrome horn.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm sure that was a little bit of team play there from LeBlanc, and no harm, no foul. It wasn't anything egregious. I thought he did a good job of, being honest with you, or keeping it honest, but being predictable at the same time. So I don't think it was anything too bad. But just from, if I was in your driver's seat, I was like, oh man, come on, man, give him the bumper. But also being, broadcaster, I wanted to see, maybe a little bit of argy-bargy. But it's still a great race from you, and I really am shocked that we didn't see a back-to-back W from you here today. I thought it was going to happen.
I tried.
But are there any shout-outs that we can give towards the end of this event?
Yeah, shout outs to the guys on the team. We worked together a lot this week, found a lot of pace together. Shout out to the league for a clean race today. You guys for the show that you put on, and shout out to any of my friends and family that tuned in to watch today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for giving us such a good show there towards the end, Bobby. We were on the edge of our seats trying to figure out how the strategy was going to play out. So thank you for kind of making it interesting on us there at the end between the top three being on different strategies like that. It was really fun to watch.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, we're going to pull our race winner in here, and we're going to get Brian Britt on the call interviewing Daniel Ott after an amazing, amazing race from him.
Yeah, Daniel Ott. I mean, man, it's been a while since you've been in victory lane. I think last time we were looking it up, last time was Martinsville, and that was quite a few months ago. But, I mean, just what a strategy, you were able to pull off. We did not think the one stop was possible in this race. I mean, did you come into this race knowing that was going to be a possibility? Because I had interviewed a couple of the teams. I had talked to Dirty South. I had talked to a couple of them, and they said that, a one stop is not possible. But you and Bobby Mantle and a couple other drivers made it like, yeah, no, it's possible.
No, it was kind of a decision on the fly. Main thing was just trying to save tires, and about 10 laps in, I'm like, it might be doable. So I start saving even more. Made it to lap 30, and then said to make it 30 more, and I ran out across the line, could barely do a burnout.
Yeah, we saw that. We had to have Mark Royce come over there and help you do a burnout, but I mean, still, you seemed like you just barely had enough fuel, and towards the end there, we saw you turn it up a little bit and get some faster laps there. We were kind of wondering, it was like, well, dang, he has an 8-second gap, he could slow down a little bit there.
Yeah, I was backing up the corners so much, and it was actually helping a little bit, because taking it easy that much really saved tires. I was just cruising through the corners and then braking or lifting early. I wasn't even hardly braking anywhere.
Well, that's definitely interesting. I mean, man, what a run for you. I mean, how does it feel to be back in victory lane? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and then the last one was just kind of surviving. Wasn't even anywhere near the fastest truck at Martinsville, but I knew I had a chance here. One of my favorite tracks, so.
100%. Now, this is the time, I think, to be heating up as well. I mean, to win at Watkins Glen, I mean, kind of close to the end of the season. What do you think this does for confidence?
Oh, it helps out a lot. I wish there were more road courses. It's kind of my thing, but I think I'm out of the points, though. I missed a few here and there, so I don't think I have a chance for that, but try to go out and win some more.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be the case. Of course, Milwaukee Mile is going to be coming up next week. Do you have any hopes of making it there and maybe going back to back?
I don't even think I own the track, so I can't say I've ever done a lap there. So we'll figure it out this week.
Well, we definitely wish you all the best there. Who can we shout out after this big victory here? Back in victory lane is Daniel Ott.
Got to shout out Mark, especially for putting on this charity for St. Jude's. Raising over $700 is just insane. So, shout out to Mark for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it definitely is for sure. And really got to mean a lot that you won. In this race. That's for those children and everything. And that is quite an accomplishment. $700. That even before the race. That's what kind of blew our minds when we were like, oh, they already hit the limit. Like it's supposed to be a charity kind of broadcast. They already hit it before we even started the broadcast.
Yeah, I thought it was just sort of 700 before the race. So I went and threw another 25 in there, and then I also put my $20 winnings that Mark was going to give to the winner in there as well. So.
Oh man, awesome, man. That's great. But great job, Daniel. We appreciate you being a part of this, and great to see you back in Victory Lane. Hopefully, we get to see you back up here on the podium or in Victory Lane again soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty, that was Daniel Ott, our winner here tonight, driver of the 62. Fantastic performance that he put on here today. I mean, fantastic performance from all the drivers. I mean, this one was one of the exciting ones. So that $700+ that went to that definitely paid for a good race. Right, awesome. I mean, that was awesome. That was a good race.
Yeah, I was very, very surprised that turned into the strategy show that it did. I just did not think that was possible going in. So I'm extremely ecstatic that we got to get treated to a race like that where the leader runs out of gas going over the start-finish line on the final lap. I mean, if Bobby Mantle could have gotten by Justin LeBlanc just a little bit earlier and forced Daniel to not save as much gas, maybe he could have pushed Daniel to running out of gas a little bit earlier and giving the win to him. So I definitely think that kind of came into play towards the end of the race, and it could have been even closer than it was, if just a couple little things went a little differently. So I think we got put onto a great show here from the Global Racing Truck League, and I can't wait to be back next week at the Milwaukee Mile.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that as well. I do believe we have a schedule to look at, and I actually neglected Martin Sports. So after we look at the schedule, I'll actually talk a little bit about them. And, of course, looking at this coming Tuesday, we're going to be Champion Power Equipment Truck Racing at Phoenix Raceway. We're going to be actually wrapping up their season to see who gets the championship. Will it be Craig Ganzak? We'll have to wait and see how that all turns out. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, on Wednesday, Pocono Raceway, we're going to be in the Thunderclap iRacing Series presented by TLC in the next gen. That's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, Friday, me and Austin Edstrom will be back on the call again in the NIS Series at Daytona. Going to go super speedway racing. And, of course, on Sunday, this next Sunday, we're going to be at the Milwaukee Mile at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the Global Racing Truck Series. And as I mentioned, I kind of neglected. Usually we do the winning moment, but I think that finish was just so exciting that I sort of neglected them. Of course, I'll talk about them now, though. Martin Sports, of course, we definitely appreciate them sponsoring the Global Racing Truck Series. They are a family-owned apparel company in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. They've been open for over a decade and proved to be a provider of the best custom apparel for everyone, whether you need apparel for your local sports team, business, special event. Not only that, this Martin Sports, they also are a major brand in sim racing. They provide top sim racing apparel for all of your needs, whether you need, specially crafted sim racing jerseys or gloves. Definitely, they provide very good grip, also very breathable as well. So visit them at martinsports906.com to check out everything that they could do for you. We definitely appreciate, though, everybody tuning in, and man, what a barn burner of a race there for sure. We can't wait. I mean, every single Sunday that we watch these global guys, they just blow us away, and I cannot wait for next Sunday to see what they do at the Milwaukee Mile. But with that, it is time to bring us to the conclusion of today's broadcast. Of course, shout out to everybody on the GridVision team. Of course, you, Austin Edstrom, for always being the best co-commentator. Of course, Austin Derbyshire for doing a great job behind the cameras, even though he got your name wrong. Of course, big shout out to Justin Levine, Taylor Burris for being a part of the GridVision family as well. My name is Brian Britt. This has been GridVision coverage of the Global Racing Truck Series. We'll see you next time.